Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, MetaZone, Rovi, and MScribe. And we got another stock heater that we're going to be talking about.
How's it feel, dude? Doing deep dive due diligence on stonk.
I feel very professional.
Do you? Is it finally time to, should I cut off the man bun?
Put the suit on?
Yeah, clean it up a bit, shave the beard.
I think so.
Hell no, dude. Fuck that. Never happening.com, dude. No way. We could still maintain our independent personas and partake. Right.
Wear hoodies and talk stocks.
That's right. Yeah, man. I guess that's the appetite, at least for now, as this intersection continues on with the Bitcoin Treasury companies. So part of a normal component of our days is becoming opening up, what is it called? BitcoinTreasuries.net or .com?
Yeah, .net.
.net. Yeah, this is kind of like the new CoinGecko, dude, for me at least. I'm just keeping tabs on these publicly listed companies. These are all their treasury, Bitcoin holdings based on the reportings they have to do per their regulations, right?
Yeah.
Remember, these are entities that have actual oversight, so they can't really lie about much.
Yeah.
Right?
They have to wear suits.
Correct. So this is kind of what you have to look into to find which of these have any real potentiality, other than the fact that they're just holding Bitcoin. There has to be an added layer of excitement on top of that, right?
Yeah, a lot of these companies, like, for example, Tesla, the most well-known one, they have Bitcoin as part of their reserves, part of their treasury.
Yeah.
But they're not Bitcoin treasury companies.
Correct.
And so you need to find the ones that are Bitcoin aligned specifically to have the upside that you're kind of looking for in this
new
space.
Market dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Which it's basically a period, nobody knows how long this period will extend, where there's over market exuberance for the ideation of crypto's intersection with, public companies.
Yeah. And even then, like Tesla, it's, part of the Mag 7, even if they were using a lot of the revenue to purchase Bitcoin, they would never outperform someone like MicroStrategy, who's using multiple times leverage to acquire Bitcoin.
You don't think so?
No way. Revenue will never outgain and someone that's leveraging themselves to purchase that asset.
Right. So you don't think if Tesla or Meta, let's say, with their $70 billion of cash, whatever the hell they got,
no.
They just, you don't think Zuckerberg's radical enough to just be like, you know what, we're dumping this cash all Bitcoin.
In?
So I think he's radical enough. I mean, he's dabbled.
Yeah, that would beat MicroStrategy here, but still the strategy is to use leverage to buy Bitcoin, which is like selling stocks, raise capital to buy Bitcoin rather than use revenue, because revenue has a limitation.
Yeah. No, I agree. So the idea here is, okay, we're going to talk about a stock called GLXY Digital, right, which is on this list.
Yeah, so on this list at number 6, right under MetaPlanet.
Yeah, I mean, it has a pretty huge reserve in its own right, but it is kind of like that hidden player within this sector of a market mania, because it doesn't have that established identity as a Bitcoin treasury company. It's not executing on the strategy you're talking about.
That's right.
That is not its main center mode of operation within these markets. It has an actual business that, MicroStrategy does too, but that has quickly become the lesser factor in its valuation, right?
Yeah, and it kind of does remind me of MetaPlanet. MetaPlanet is also a business. They run a hotel service, but they're positioning themselves as the access point for traditional markets to be exposed to Bitcoin. And
correct.
They have a pretty good narrative, because over there to buy Bitcoin, there's 55% taxes.
In Japan?
In Japan, yeah. And
That's right.
And so buying MetaPlanet to get exposure to Bitcoin is a less tax burden.
Yeah, so they figured out a killer moat, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the result of that is 100x, like we talked about previously.
Exactly. Right? But with GLXY Digital, they have their own business, but it's not focused on acquiring Bitcoin, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because if they do pivot, we got
that could have some astronomical results. I would imagine, right?
Yeah. So
let's find out more about Galaxy.
So here's Galaxy's website. It says helping the world invest, build, and transform. And so this is run by Mike Novogratz.
Yeah, which if you've been around in this space long enough, you recognize the name. He's been, a pillar, I would say, a very early investor to Ethereum. If you're around during like the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash war.
Yeah.
2017, like literally a war. Where
there was literally a flippening that was about to happen.
Yeah, maybe like a few $100,
yeah.
And Bitcoin Cash could have flipped Bitcoin because the big heated argument was, after this fork, which one's the real Bitcoin? Mm-hmm. Do we support, what is it, bigger blocks?
Bigger blocks and cash Bitcoin, meaning peer-to-peer money.
Yeah, which was the vision of like of that cult
of Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah,
which was also really the same vision as Satoshi to a large extent.
Yeah, but that was going to be determined by which of these two actually wins out. And then I remember vividly, like Mike Novogratz came in as Bitcoin was dumping and Bitcoin Cash was going up and just full swept Bitcoin, and it just jolted right back up, kind of like decisively declaring Bitcoin is still Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And since then, Bitcoin Cash is in the gutter. Roger Ver is in prison. Like all this shit, right?
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike Novogratz saves Bitcoin.
He really did.
Yeah. So, all right, let's continue on here. So we have Galaxy is a digital assets, data centers, and crypto treasury play all rolled into one. So which kind of data centers? Well, the ones that support AI. And they used to mine Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's how and why they have 15,000 Bitcoin. Or 12,000, I should say.
Yeah, which if you've been paying attention to the Treasury thing, a lot of these Bitcoin miners are kind of like pivoting away from that direction because I don't think it's a very fun business to be in.
No.
It's very.
It's always getting more expensive because you got to acquire more rigs.
Right.
It costs more electricity. You need the space.
Correct, and it's like hyper concentrated among like a few major players, and they seem to only be strengthening their infrastructure over time. So it's like, all right, there's no point in competing here. There's another market now that needs our energy capacities and the land leasing agreements that we have.
Yep.
Let's just strip all these miners out and throw in some, I don't know, NVIDIA stuff.
Yeah, H100, H200s.
Yeah, basically. And let's make some money.
Yeah.
I think that's a good approach, right?
Yeah.
Considering what we know about AI.
Yeah, so let's continue on. So Altius Research, so they did a kind of like a walkthrough on Galaxy overall. So we're going to put these links in the description, so if you want to read through this. So a deep dive in Galaxy Digital's flagship AI mining center. So this is their predominant revenue-generating activity, which we hope that if Mike Novogratz switches the narrative here to be acquiring Bitcoin, it could do really well.
Yeah, within this report, see if you could find it, like in the highlighted sections, right there. Just in the contracts that this Galaxy Digital is already kind of secured with CoreWeave, which is like an AI infrastructure player.
Yeah.
Just based on like the actual capacity that they can generate from their Helios campus, there's like a structured valuation mechanic here that kind of values it somewhere in the $30 to $40 billion range.
Yeah, so they believe the shares are significantly undervalued at 1.7, and we're looking at a 25x to turn into a $43 billion enterprise.
Yeah, so if you look at the current valuation, I think it's trading at somewhere around 10 billion, 8 to 10 billion. So just that alone. But of course, this is stocks are different than cryptos, right? Like these are things that have to play out over years because you have to actually build out. Even though the contracts are there, the potential for expansion exists. You actually have to lay the groundwork. You're talking borrowing tens of billions of dollars probably just to build out this facility.
Yeah, right.
So that's the hard part, right? It's actually executing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just like a crypto project where you could just kind of outline a roadmap and
Yeah,
In a lot of cases, that's enough.
Yeah, it is important to understand where they're executing on, which is specifically AI, which is like on its like beginnings, right? And so if they do execute, which Mike Novogratz has a good track record, then you can assume he's going to be successful and generating a ton of revenue as a result.
Yeah, and I think that's when you're analyzing these Bitcoin Treasury plays, at least for the long term, like if you're trying to pick something that you think has multi-cycle sustainability, at some point, like this current existing euphoria is going to run dry. Yeah. And these premiums probably won't exist anymore just based off of how much Bitcoin you're stacking, most likely.
Yeah.
So the ones that are able to capitalize on this momentum of today and transition that into an actual, revenue stream, something that has like 100-year out prospect like AI.
Yeah.
And like we're about to talk about stable coins and financial servicing. That's pretty important, right? That means they're actually going to not die when Bitcoin crashes again.
Correct. They're just going to be generating revenue, and when Bitcoin crashes, just acquire more of that asset.
Yeah. Just keep stockpiling these assets during the next bear market, essentially.
Yeah. All right. So from GLXY themselves, exciting step for the Europe's digital future. All Unity, our joint venture with Flow Traders and DWS Group, has obtained an EMEI license from BaFin, Germany's security regulator. So let's hear from the man himself.
From New York City. Big day. I want to congratulate the All Unity team. What's All Unity, you're asking? It's a tri-venture between GLXY, DWS, the biggest asset manager in Europe, a subsidiary of Deutsche Bank, and Flow Traders, one of the largest market makers in all of Europe. What do we get together to do? To create a regulated European stablecoin. The first BaFin regulated stablecoin. It complies with the MiCAR regulations. We think it's important. Stablecoins are going to have a big future. You see what's happening here in the U.S. With the Circle IPO and just the belief system that the new chapter is starting. We think the same is going to happen in Europe. Couldn't be more excited to get this thing off the ground. It's got transparency. It trades 24/7. It's got proof of reserves built into the blockchain. This is the Cadillac of European stablecoins, and we're coming at you. Thanks.
Very nice.
Guys.
Cadillac, dude.
I like Cadillacs.
That's a very old school thinking.
Cadillac's an American company, right?
Yes, it is. GM.
Yeah, maybe you should have used like a European. It's the Ferrari. It's the Lamborghini of.
It's true.
That's more of a European.
Yep.
Or it's the Mercedes, the BMW. Yeah, I don't know. He might have fumbled there. Yeah. He might have pissed off a bunch of Europeans, dude. He's like, we don't like Cadillacs in Europe.
Yeah. Man, there was that's Mike Novogratz. So he said a lot of stuff there, and let me see if I can break this down. So All Unity joint venture, they announced they've been granted an e-money institution EMI license from the German Federal Financial Supervisory Authority. So all this means that if you're like a traditional investor and you're looking at the fundamentals, this is essentially creating a moat because it's not exactly easy for anyone to just go and get these licenses.
Yeah. And like he said, he's kind of running off of the steam that Circle and Coinbase have generated by cornering the United States market and working through all that legwork to, educate the United States regulatory agencies to kind of support this stuff, right? We got some major acts on the way, the Clarity and this, what's the other one? Genius Act.
Genius Act, yeah.
I mean, these things within the next weeks, maybe months, will be officially stamped in. That's going to issue a lot more of this, right? Mm-hmm. So cornering the European market in that regard, kind of like working off of that momentum.
Yeah.
Big deal, right? It's first mover in that segment of the world.
Yeah, so how big of a deal are stable coins? Well, I guess I would, in my opinion, put Bitcoin at the very top as the most acquirable asset for like any institution, government, and individual. Then after that is like the most important financial asset would be a stable coin, right? And after stable coins would be more like decentralized finance, where you kind of leverage that stable coin worldwide.
How come? Why?
Just because it allows for financial access. You just need an app, essentially. You don't need a bank account. You don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's also the yield generation capabilities of DeFi, which another corner or another pillar here that Galaxy is involved in. You can click on the next tweets here.
Next one here.
Yeah.
So Galaxy joins Fireblocks to expand institutional access to our robust staking solutions. Yeah, huge. Yeah, so traditionally, when you stake your fiat currency in a bank account, you earn maybe 0.1%.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, right? And so with stable coins, and there's going to be tons of competitors, right? There's multiple competitors for U.S. stablecoin, right? We have Circle with USDC, and we have Tether. Mm-hmm. And then now we have Walmart coming out with their stablecoin, PayPal, and, you have the, other kinds of currency stablecoins like the Europe stablecoin. But they're all going to offer their own benefits to holding that stablecoin, and it could yield percentages, right? 10x what you would get in a bank account.
Yeah, this yield opportunity, I think, is what's going to ultimately, I think, cement the actual systemic adoption of crypto into like corporate level treasury, assimilation, because, this means everybody's, treasury is no longer just like static pools of assets. Like you can have these things in these very secure vaults. That's what these Fireblock fellas do. And they say they have 2,000, right? 2,000 institutional users. So these are people with massive amounts of capital. And now they're integrating with Galaxy's staking ability. So you don't have to actually move your assets out of your own secure vaults. And you can still get access to that yield.
Yeah, so clients can stake digital assets directly from their Fireblocks vaults without moving assets off platform, while leveraging Galaxy's high-performance, globally distributed validator infrastructure.
Yeah, so that's huge. Again, they've positioned themselves over the years to build the infrastructure, not just for AI, but also for the crypto rails for the institutional players.
Yeah,
which we're witnessing the explosion of that is the institutional adoption of crypto. Yeah. So the next phase is going to be, okay, we're all sitting on all this crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, whatever. How do we actually put it to use without actually having to be like the deal with the fuckability of like moving things around on chain, right?
Yeah.
No institution wants to deal with that headache.
Yeah, that's right.
But they've built the infrastructure where you could literally just sit on it and it generates the yield. It's part of the validating network of securing proof of stake networks like Ethereum or Solana. Right?
Yeah, and like he was saying, there's proof of reserves, right? Because all this is on the blockchain, you can just go and prove that they have the actual assets.
Yeah, so I don't think we know truly like how much revenue. Of course, these integrations, they're going to get their cut, right? Over time as more institutions start to stockpile more crypto.
Yeah.
And just that gets contributed into the staking networks of these on-chain networks. How much revenue that ends up going back to Galaxy, unknown, right?
Yeah.
But that is the speculative potential there. Could be a lot.
So Tom Lee is another one that we've spoken about, the chairman of BitMine. So Tom Lee's Fundstrat has a 10% allocation into Galaxy in their crypto equities portfolio. Yes. So Tom must know something, right?
Well, yeah, it's just, who else is in there? MicroStrategy. I don't even know who CDLC is.
Coinbase,
Robinhood, and Galaxy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a solid portfolio. So, yeah, Tom Lee, he sees, the potential, but the only issue, so, we just look at let me see. Do you have a chart here at the very end?
Yeah, Galaxy Digital.
Yeah, the only issue is this has been like a Canadian stock for like the last 5 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't really performed very much. It has been, in my definition, this has been crabbing essentially for the last few years.
Yeah, with the 10 billion market cap.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the reality of stocks in a lot of cases.
Yep.
It's pretty boring. It's pretty snoozy, not very exciting. But again, this particular stock has the opportunity now that it's listed on the Nasdaq, and it's got these treasury holdings.
Yes.
And it has all these different vectors of revenue potential, whether it's servicing, institutional crypto adoption, infrastructure, stable coins, all that.
Yeah.
All it takes, from my perspective, is a little narrative shift. It's like, yeah, we're going to leverage this existing train of a Bitcoin or crypto treasury company thing so that we can compound the growth of all these different vectors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is the what if, right?
Yeah, and so you're making the bet on Mike to actually make that narrative shift.
Yeah, to recognize what's happening, which I know they are. They have to be.
Yeah, for sure.
They see what we see.
He talks to Tom all the time.
That's right. It's like, yeah. And he's invested into Tom Lee's.
Yeah.
And I think even like Joe Lubin's, like all these things that are doing 20, 30x is just because they're becoming part of this Treasury company mold.
Yeah.
I think as a corporate executive, you would kind of like try and weaponize that for your own potential, right? Your own benefit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So that's the gamble, right?
Yeah, that's the thesis here.
That's the thesis.
So we're looking at Goldman Sachs here, right? They've been only up since 1999, and the market cap is 217 billion.
Yeah, the reason why I brought this up is a potential comparable, right? It's like if they can fully execute and continue to create these moats and service institutional players.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what Goldman does and other like major bankers in the TradFi space. I mean, that's I like to see it only go up charts, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Oracle, 664 billion.
So what do they do?
Well, they're sort of like a infrastructure provider for
the internet,
for services, right? Software as a service
and cloud infrastructure. So that's another vertical where they could, if they can continue to expand on this AI infrastructure play, again, compounding the growth and the utilization of crypto treasury assets as they grow in valuation, that should increase your stock valuation, should be able to turn that into more crypto. Yeah, the flywheel that we're seeing, and then use that to grow your other revenue generating components.
And Circle just did their IPO. Right now they're valued at 50 billion, and they've only been around for like
a month or two.
Yeah, maybe a month.
Yeah, I mean Circle, it's a stablecoin. We all know Circle. We all know USDC. So that's TBD to see what the Euro stablecoin, what that market looks like. Of course, stablecoins, they require a lot of distribution, right?
Yes, they do.
Coinbase helped Circle quite a bit in that regard.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of work ahead of him, but again, the real bet here is on the narrative shift. If that is to occur, this is probably one of the more fundamentally sound Bitcoin treasury companies that exist.
Yeah, it's a high upside,
Maybe.
Especially with what they're doing.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us. We talked about Michael Novogratz and I guess the potential here on doing that little narrative shift to kind of like have access to the mania of Bitcoin treasury companies that's happening right now. Yeah. But yeah, if you guys find anything that's really interesting happening in the crypto/stock space with treasuries, definitely put in the comment section below. I appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.